Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. So we all know one of the biggest stories going into this season was surrounding the Brooklyn Nets, right? I think we did some videos prior to the season starting, and I said, even on Dreamerspro Max, I said that I had a feeling that the Brooklyn Nets may be derailed, and I think it would be something that would most likely be self-inflicted. I don't think it would be anything on the court as far as, their level of talent or the way they were able to play. I just felt like something would go awry, and it turned out that that ended up being the situation with the Brooklyn Nets and Kyrie Irving. Why? Because Kyrie basically made national headlines. His situation with the Brooklyn Nets and his stance got so much headway that it ended up on big, news media outlets like CNN, Fox News. It was something that was pretty big. And why is that? Because of his stance on not being vaccinated, it created a huge conversation around sports and, in the country, overall. And it got to the point where some protesters in support of Kyrie Irving actually came to the Brooklyn Nets arena and was protesting outside the arena. I saw some images of that. I think people were trying to get into the arena. I'm not sure. But it seems like as if this issue with Kyrie ended up becoming very, very contentious. And as of date, the Nets have told Kyrie Irving that he cannot play with the team until he is fully vaccinated, because they didn't want him to be there half of the time, and in the other half, he's not there. They felt probably as if it was going to be too much of a distraction. We heard from some of his high profile teammates like Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant basically said, listen, this is Kyrie Irving's decision. He has every single right to make whatever decision he sees fit for himself. But at the same time, we're going to focus on the team that we have here, and we're going to try to look for ways to move forward. Just recently, I think they suffered a loss or they struggled, and Kevin Durant came out there joking, and in the press conference, and he was just like, I know, Joe. Yeah, what do y'all want me to say? Y'all want me to say it, right? We miss Kyrie, right? We need Kyrie. So even Kevin Durant, has been talking about it and trying to make the entire situation seem light. Now, given the fact that I just said the team said he cannot play, given the fact that New York has its mandates and all of these different things, they still nevertheless have agreed to give him half of his salary. So he will be compensated at least for half of the work. Basically, have the home games essentially. Not the home game, the road games. So, but in the midst of all of this, we've heard from many different voices. We heard from the GM, Sean Marks. We've heard from people in media like myself, Stephen A. Smith, so many other different people. But the person we have yet to hear from is the Nets owner, Joe Tsai. I hope I pronounced his last name properly. If I didn't, please correct me in the comment section. But we haven't heard from him. And recently, I just read an article this morning. He recently sat down with ESPN to give his thoughts and opinions on the entire Kyrie situation in his absence. So before we go too far, what I want to do for you guys, we want to read rather some of his comments and then ultimately come back and give you guys our thoughts on some of the things that he had to say. So before we go too far, let me get into this article here on ESPN. Let me read some of his comments and then we get back into the video. So the article starts off, Brooklyn Nets owner says, choice not having Kyrie Irving play is a team decision, not a decision about him. The article continues, Brooklyn Nets owner Joe Tsai hopes Kyrie Irving gets vaccinated as soon as possible, but he is unsure when the point guard will return to the team. Tsai, however, remains certain that Irving has to be vaccinated to play for the Nets as long as New York City continues to have its mandate. I don't know, Tsai said in a sit-down interview with ESPN when asked when he thinks Kyrie Irving will play again. Either he has to be vaccinated in order to come back if the New York mandate is still in place, and don't ask me when they may or may not change the New York City mandate. Again, if you ask people that are making a decision at the city level, they're going to say, we're going to rely on the science, rely on the health departments, and rely on what the health departments tell us in order to proceed. Tsai said he has not spoken to Irving since the team collaborative decision on October 12th to not have him be with the team until he complies with the New York City mandate of getting at least one vaccination shot in order to play at the Barclays Center and Madison Square Garden. Added Tsai, obviously Kyrie has his own beliefs, so I respect that, but we have to make a team decision. This is not a decision about him. This is a decision about where we go as a team. And it is just not tenable for us to have a team with a player that comes in and out, no home games, only away games. What do you do in practice then? As a group of protesters gathered outside Barclays Center before the team's home opener last Sunday, they were holding stand with Kyrie signs and chanting no vaccine mandate, stand with Kyrie. At one point, a handful of these demonstrators tried to make their way in the front door of Barclays Center before being held off by security. I just think that it's cavalier for people to hijack something like this when life and death is at stake, Tsai said. People shouldn't have to make it into a political issue, so when you see protesters, they're definitely making a political statement. These guys are not basketball fans. They could care less whether someone is on the court playing or not. They're hijacking the issue, but it's dangerous because we have a life and death situation. The fact is, if you're not vaccinated and if you catch the virus, you have a much higher probability of getting very, very sick in the end and end up in an ICU and possibly, deceased. Basically, the article continues on and he has a lot more things to say, but you guys can definitely go and check it out. But from the comments that I got from him, I got a few things. Number one, he didn't mince his words. He seemed to be very candid. He seemed to be very straightforward. Judging from the way he was speaking, it seems pretty clear where he stands on this, on the vaccine is something that I think he's pro his players getting. He also said he didn't like the idea of Kyrie Irving being a part-timer from a practical standpoint, talking about, okay, if he's going to be at away games and then they have a 6-game home stretch, he's not going to be there, and all of these different things. He asked about how's it going to work in practice, is he going to be in and out. So he said that I think the mental gymnastics of trying to integrate him into the team concept, given the fact that he's going to be a part-timer, seems like a mental task that he doesn't want to undertake. He doesn't want any of his staff members to undertake. He also said that he doesn't seem to be interested in waiting to hear what New York City decides to do, because it looks as if he's already made his decision. The majority of his players have already made a decision. So just judging from some of the things that he said and the way he said it, it seems as if he's kind of moved on, right? That's just the sense that I got from him. And ultimately, the last thing that he said about he didn't want this situation to become politicized. He said that that's something that he didn't like. Obviously, that is outside of his hand. You can't control, how people choose to handle information or act on different things. So that's completely outside of our control. However, my question to you guys is this, because I don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm very interested to hear what some of you guys have to think on this. Is what are your thoughts on what he said? Number one. Number two, more importantly, do you think Kyrie Irving is going to return this season at all? Right? Do you think he's going to return? And do you think if he does return, it will matter? Like, will he return in time for things to matter? Right? Because if you look at the Brooklyn Nets right now, they're not really off to the best of starts that a lot of us envision them being off to. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that James Harden is not looking like himself, given the fact that the new NBA rules, whatever it is. So what I want to know from you guys is, what do you think about what he said? Do you think Kyrie Irving is going to come back? These are the two most important questions that I'm asking, and I'll be interested to hear what a lot of you guys think about this. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day and catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.